Hello everyone, it's week 2 of the artist inspired prompt in the Facebook group, the Mixed Media Emporium. Now don't forget we're collaborating with Olmert Olsen this month, so I will leave the links to both Olmert's and Kylie's videos in the description box below. Now I'm going to be doing a Kandinsky inspired concentric circle idea this week. I've pulled out some of the papers that I used in last week's collages. These were 4 of the papers that you might recognise from last week's project. I've also pulled out 2 extras as well. These are both wallpaper samples, so I've got these which I think match really well with the designs that I've got going on here. I've also cut myself a piece of cardstock which measures 7.5 by 5 inches, and you can see, especially if I hold it this way, that I've segregated it into 6 equal 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares. So I've drawn a line down the middle at 2.5 inches. This is 5 inches here across the width. And then 3 dots here at 2.5 inches to give me 6 equal 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares. So that's the substrate that I'm going to be working on today. Now, before I do anything, I want to glue this piece of napkin here down to a piece of thin cardstock. This is, I think, 120 GSM cardstock, so nice and thin, but I do know that it will just make this napkin easier to work with for what I've got in mind. So bring in a piece of parchment paper, and all I'm going to do is cover the whole of this background in glue stick, just a thin layer of glue stick. I do want to make sure that I've got it all over the background though, just so that there's no gaps. That should do fine. And then I'm just going to pop this down. Let's do this, and I'm just going to spread that out and burnish it down. Oh, hang on, we've not got that quite straight. Let me just see if I can peel this off. And this is just a single layer of the napkin, by the way. You need to take all the plies apart. Here we go. And I'm just going to use a lollipop stick now just to burnish that down. There we go, just like that. And that will just make it much easier for me to work with. So you can see that my napkin is now glued down to that piece of cardstock, and what I'm going to do now is just cut myself some 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares out of all 6 pieces here, and as soon as I've done that I'll be straight back. Now, as you can see, I've got 6 squares here which I've cut to 2.5 by 2.5 inches, and before I do anything with them I'm just going to ink around the edges just using some frayed burlap distress ink. So I'm going to go around all of these just to frame them and hopefully separate them when I glue them down. So I've inked around the edges of all 6 pieces, and what I will do whilst I've got my ink out is just ink down the lines here as well, just so that when I glue them down, if I'm not completely accurate, all you're going to see is the colour of the distress ink rather than white. I'm not going to be particularly neat about this. It really doesn't matter. So here we go, just along these lines like this. So now to glue my squares down. Just be really random about this. Do not overthink it if you decide to do this kind of thing. It really doesn't matter. They're all glues together, so the more random it is, the better it's going to look. Get rid of all these globby bits. Oh my goodness me, I'd forgotten how globby these glue sticks were. So I'm going to stick this one down first, and I'm just going to follow those lines if I can still see them, just like this. And I'm going to glue all 6 down to my piece of paper. Now the fabric I have also stuck down to a piece of cardstock, just because the fabric is too thin on its own. So just like I did with the napkin, I've also glued the fabric down to card as well. So we'll have this one up here, Doesn't matter if we've got glue around the edges. I love the way as well that when you ink fabric, it kind of spreads. It gives a really nice effect. So this is my background, and I've had it weighted down underneath a heavy book, so it's nice and flat. I'm really happy with that. Now I've also cut myself 6 sets of 4 squares. So here we go. So 4 out of each of the designs of paper. I cut myself some templates. I've cut a square at 2¼ inch square, 2-inch square, 1½ inch square, and 1¼ inch square. So I've used these as a template rather than using my paper trimmer. It was just easier to do that. And what I'm going to do is use these as a guide to cut myself some circles. So I just want to cut myself some irregular circles using this as a guide. This way, rather than using punches, they're just a little bit more irregular, and I like how that looks. So I'm going to cut circles out of all of these, and this way we've got circles that are just reducing in size all the time, and we want them to be just a little bit wonky, just like this. And so I'm going to do the same with all of these squares here, cutting them all down into different size circles, just like this. And then the last one, not overthinking this at all. The wonkier in a way, the better. So there we go. So we've got four circles here, and I'm going to do the same with all of these squares. So you can see I've cut out all of my circles, and I've also put them into size order. So the largest, and then going down in size. And what I do want to do now is arrange these on my background. And I want to try and put a plain one where there's a pattern and a patterned one where there's a plain. And I'm going to do my absolute hardest not to overthink this. So that one will be a plain, a patterned one there. I've tried to alternate these as well so that it makes it easier for me not to overthink it. Come on, Nina, you can absolutely do this. So we want a plain one there, a pattern there. And I want to try and make sure as well that I'm not repeating any of these patterns. Let's see if I can achieve that as well. I've tried to arrange these so that I don't have to put too much thought into this. Let's see if it's worked. So like that. I might need to arrange some of these again afterwards if I'm not particularly happy with the layout, but we shall see. And then what do I want to do? We'll have that one on there, a patterned one. In fact, I didn't want to repeat any of these patterns if I can absolutely help it. So if I had that one there, perhaps, maybe that one there, that's not repeating anything, is it? I need to switch these around. You see, I'm overthinking it. Good grief, Nina. Leave it there for the time being. You can rearrange this if you're not happy with it in a second. Let's do this. Pattern there and a plain one there. That looks really cool, doesn't it? So I'm going to have a look at this, see if I'm happy with it. You see, I'm looking at this and I can see 2 of the same, so I'm just going to have a look and see if I can arrange this in a better way. I'm also thinking about inking around the edges, and then of course I just need to glue my circles down. Well, I'm feeling very accomplished and proud of myself because I have managed to put them together so that none of the patterns are repeated. But as I've said, I do want to just ink around the edges, just in a touch of Distress ink in frayed burlap. I think that's going to look better. So I'm just going to go around these in stacks 1 by 1 so that I don't end up messing them up and having to go through the painstaking process again. I think that looks much better now that I've inked around the edges. Now, as far as glue is concerned, I'm just going to use my glue stick. I'm not bothered about the glue going right to the very edge. I want a bit of dimension to this. So I'm just going to glue it down just to the very centre, and then I can just weight the whole piece, the whole project down underneath a heavy book, just to make sure that the glue well and truly grabs. So I'm just going to glue it down like this, trying not to overthink where I'm putting it as well. You know, the wonkier, as I said at the beginning of the video, the better. I hate these globby bits. That's driving me nuts. But I'm just going to do it just like this to all of my stacks. So that is my interpretation of Kandinsky's squares with concentric circles, which I think has got to be one of his most recognisable pieces of work. Really like how that has turned out. Of course, my colour scheme and style is completely different to his. Now, I do want to add this to my usual scraps journal, and just to show you, you'll recognise some of the patterns and papers from the project, or one of the projects I did last week. Where are the other two? Because I did use some of those patterns in one of the other pieces as well. There you go. There's the napkin. So we've got that repetitiveness going on that I really like. I think I'm going to glue it down to this page here. So let's just take that out of the journal, and I'm just going to use some of my 3-in-1, just a small amount, just around the edges. Just like this, and a tiny bit of glue stick in the middle just to hold it down, or help to hold it down, and then I'll just weight it down underneath a heavy book before adding it to my journal once everything is set dry. So there we go. I'll add a small amount of glue in the middle as well, as I always do. Let's get rid of those globbies. Here we are. And that's another page done in this journal. I love how this journal is coming together. So we'll just pop that down there like that. I think that's enough. I don't think I want anything else behind that. So I'm just going to pop it in between a piece of deli paper and stick it under a book. I love that. So just to recap, the prompt for this month is fine art inspired. Now you can either choose to be inspired by a specific artist. I've gone for Kandinsky this week. There are just many others. You can either choose one of the greats, or maybe a modern day fine artist. We are not including YouTube artists in this prompt though. We are specifically talking fine art here. You could also choose to be inspired by a particular art style. So for instance, Impressionism, pop art, pointillism, abstract. The list is absolutely endless. Now, there are no weekly challenges this month. This prompt is just so broad that we've just decided to keep it as simple as possible and give you the opportunity to choose your artists or your particular art style. But don't forget to go and check out both Kylie's and Olmert's videos this week. Of course, Olmert Olsen is following along with us during the whole of this month's prompt, so I'll leave the link to both of their videos in the description box below. But if you've enjoyed my video this week, as always, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. As I always say, it really does let YouTube know that you like what I'm doing. Do let me know what you think in the comments below, and if anybody wants to follow along with this month's prompt, I'll leave the link to the Facebook group, the Mixed Media Emporium, in the description box below, so please do feel free to come along and join us. But thanks for watching. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.